Hi everyone, we are now going to be starting the watercraft decontamination section number 5, selling a decontamination. As part of your job as a decontamination technician, as we've mentioned before, part of your job is to educate the public on pretty much a daily basis. In doing that, one of your biggest tasks is going to be conveying to the boaters why it's important to decontaminate their boat. There's going to be plenty of people that really aren't going to have a problem with this. They're going to think it's great and they're going to let you decontaminate their boat. They're going to understand the science and the reasoning and the rationale behind it. And your sales pitch will go off without a hitch. But there are going to be boaters that are going to have a little bit of negative feedback for you. And these are their three most common reasons for being skeptical of decontaminating their boat. First off, they might be like, why should I care? What difference do I make? The lake already has AIS. Each boater is going to react different, and they're all going to have different motives for the reasoning behind them wanting or not wanting to have a decontamination performed. So over the years, these are kind of the three most common reasons why boaters would shy away from having their boat decontaminated. The first one is not being interested in environmental health. There's going to be people that just clearly don't have an interest in the environment. They don't feel like what we're doing is making any sort of a difference. The next one is they're in a rush and they want to launch or retrieve their watercraft as quickly as possible. So this one's pretty common. They might be getting out of work late and they're just trying to get out in the water, and they just see you as something that's in between them and what they want to be doing. The last one is they don't want someone else touching their boat. So for a lot of people, their boats have a lot of money wrapped up into them, or they have sentimental value, or they know that they're pretty fragile. And so they want, essentially for only themselves to be the one touching and working on their boat. So the fact that someone else is asking to be able to perform a decontamination on their boat is something that they're very uncomfortable with. So now we're going to jump into some of the selling points for each one of these reasons to shy away from a decontamination. And so the first section here is for people that aren't interested in environmental health. So first off, you can just give the facts. Explain how AIS spreads. Explain how the number one way that AIS spreads is on boats, motors, trailers, in bilge water through human spread is the biggest factor. You can also talk about how AIS affects aquatic ecosystems once introduced, how it affects native fish species, how it affects native plant species, and then that can also then be connected right to the overall cost of management. The cheapest way to manage aquatic invasive species is to control the spread of it. Once it's already into an ecosystem, that's when the cost really explodes. And the next one that's really a neat way to do it is to highlight key interceptions our stewards have made. Talk about the water chestnut that showed up at a launch up north, or talk about hydrilla that showed up at this other launch, and how our stewards were able to intercept that before it got into that water body. So now the boaters that claim they're in a rush. So for starters, for performing a decontamination, it only takes about 7 to 10 minutes for most situations. Obviously, there's going to be situations that could go longer than that. If a boat shows up with, top to bottom covered in zebra mussels, it's probably not going to take 7 to 10 minutes. But for your typical scenarios, doing compartment flushes, flushing the motor, taking care of the outside hull and trailer, 7 to 10 minutes is going to cover that decontamination from top to bottom. As well as if you're doing a localized decontamination, it often takes far less than 5 minutes if you're just dealing with external parts or quick internal compartment flushes. So additionally, something that you could talk to them about is that by performing a decontamination with us, we're helping them comply with the Clean Drain Dry standard and the New York State AIS transport law, because now at this point, transporting aquatic invasive species in the state of New York is something that is illegal. So we are actually helping them comply with it. Now for the boaters that don't want someone touching their boat. So for starters, you can let them know that the temperatures and exposure settings that we use have been tested and certified to meet both killing aquatic invasive species and being within the proper operating range for cleaning watercrafts. So we're not using excessive heat to be able to kill the AAS that's also going to damage the boat. It's carefully balanced between the two. Also, we can work with the boater with their concerns. If they're concerned about paint chipping on the rear transom, or perhaps their vinyl decal kit that they put on the hull of the boat, or even their electronics, the mounting transducers on the transom, we can work with that. So if they're concerned about the pressure of the water, what we can do is you as a decontamination technician can inform them that you're going to lower the pressure of the water and then just keep up with that, the required heat and for a longer exposure time. The pressure isn't necessary at all times, especially in sensitive areas. So now just a couple of great talking points to hit on. So as I quickly mentioned before, there is now a New York State transport law that makes it illegal to be transporting aquatic invasive species on your boat, on your person, on your vehicle, whatever it may be. So you can just let them know that by performing a watercraft decontamination with us, which is a free service to them, is actually helping them comply with these new laws. Creating conversation is definitely your friend. When you can start to level with someone on similar interests, talking to them about how their paddle was and how fishing was, and talking about kayaking, swimming, wildlife, whatever you're interested in and they're interested in, creating that conversation and a little bit more connect can really get you a lot further in convincing them of the benefits of watercraft decontamination. Also, in carrying on those conversations, you can explain to them how all of this is backed up by science, and that our numbers are showing that we're making an effect on the spread and establishment of AIS within our region. Also, you can, if they're not fully understanding why it's important, things like, well, your boat's coming out of Lake Champlain, there's XYZ invasives in here. You're potentially carrying those to another body of water without you actually knowing.